taking a look at some other areas of my displays. I have some great antique glass, silver plate. I will always have a wonderful collection of silver plate, flatware, hollowware, candlesticks, lots of different things. Whatever you're looking for as far as silver goes, I can find it, I can identify it. I love a treasure hunt, so if you're missing a piece out of your pattern that you currently have and are looking to add to it, just let me know. Put a note down in the comments. I'm happy to go on a hunt for you. Those always will be an eclectic, interesting combination of things to include art glass. This is a great open vase. We've got a chocolate pot here, a couple of Victorian prints, and some pewter and silver plate. And one of the things I really like to walk folks through is how to use some of these pieces that were used earlier, using them today. So here we have an example of bread dishes. There's 4 of them here. And these are a piece that still have a lot of different uses. I would, especially this one with the pedestal legs, that would be a great choice to use in a vanity or a bathroom to hold all sorts of makeup and maybe jewelry. I'd probably put a vintage piece of linen in that to hold jewelry so it wouldn't roll around. The one next to it is Victorian. This one is from probably about 1890, and we've got this grape pattern. Could be a little later, but I don't think on that piece how it's made and how the pattern is done. Then we come up into the 20th century and we have here another great pattern. This is probably as early as 1910, maybe as late as 1940 to 50. There was a couple Victorian revival periods during the 20th century, so sometimes it's a little harder to date them. You want to take a look at the mark, and that should be able to tell you that. If you're not sure about something, you can certainly put it in the comments, give me a picture of the item and its mark, and I'd be happy to identify it for you. And there's a little bit plainer one, probably Edwardian. Once again, these are bread servers. You can use them for that still today, but there's lots of other fun uses that you could put them to work as. I'm always going to have some really wonderful selection of silver plate and silver servers and flatware. And right now I have this great pair of brass candlesticks. These are Persian, I do believe. The lady I got these from extensively traveled in that area of the world. And I know I have folks say sometimes, well, I don't want candles anymore. I don't want that open flame. What's really nice is they do sell the tapers now that are run on a battery. So they're not, no flame, no risk. You can still have your candles and have that out. Got a great selection of casserole spoons, or if they're earlier, they would have been berry spoons. There was another meat forks, and here's an example of a berry spoon from your Victorian time frame. It looks very similar to a casserole spoon, but it was meant to serve berries and would have come with 6 little tiny forks with long tines that were berry forks, as well as a cream ladle. And this is a cream ladle in a pattern called Moselle, which is considered the queen of the grape patterns, and I think you can understand why. And that's right between 1904 to 1912, right in that area. And the pastry server is Victorian, and then this is a tomato server in Old Colony, great pattern by 1847 Rogers. And you'll see that on the back stamp. If you look at the back of this piece, it's a tomato server. Now, just to note, 1847 does not mean that that's the year the item was made. 1847 Rogers is a plating process. The first year Rogers used the plating process was 1847. They were using it with a very, very plain pattern called tipped or reverse tipped. And then every time they made their top level plating, which is 5 layers, they would also backstamp it with 1847 because that's when they patented the process. So it's not that old. This piece is from 1910. I've got a covered butter here, and this one has its insert. That's some of the things you want to look for. If you see one of these covered butters, they're supposed to have that metal insert so that you don't damage the silver plate when you're cutting the butter. and also so you can pull the insert out, put the butter in the refrigerator, and then put it back in the server. This particular piece I haven't high polished. It looks perfectly fine like this, but it could also have a little bit of polish applied to it and it would look really lovely as well. Then I have a couple teapots back here. These are 20th century, and the covered butter with its rests in the front is Victorian. And because it doesn't have its insert, so it's supposed to have an insert there to hold the butter, you can actually repurpose these to some other things, maybe to hold business cards or put a pen on the front rest. I like to come up with new uses for things that maybe aren't serving their original purpose currently. Got several examples of bride baskets here. This one, its handle still stands up. They have different motifs. We've got one here that has a floral motif. This is going to be right around 1905. It's Art Nouveau. This one back here with its bright cut and its much more ornate handle is Victorian, probably 20 years earlier than that one. Similar here. And then the one in the front has more stylized. You can see fans, you can see some other motifs here. And this is aesthetic. This would have been the 1870s. If you'd like to hear a lot more about any of those eras and the motifs that go along with them, there's a really fascinating book that was published in 1854, which influenced a lot of this during the Victorian era. If you'd like to hear more about that, go ahead and put the comments down below, and I will certainly be happy to record that. As I tell folks normally, I can talk all day on most of these topics. I really do enjoy sharing my knowledge. So I'd be happy to research or to do a recording. I do make sure I have all sorts of tea items. So we have lemon forks, we have tea scoops. And the reason I do that is because I host historical teas. So I always offer those. So this is a pretty good selection of them. And I'm sure as you're looking at this, you'll see that most of these are not priced. They're not priced because I'm in the process of doing that. I have these laid out, so I thought I'd share them while I was working on it. And we've got a nice little 1920s. This little compote is actually probably was supposed to be sitting on a larger under tray like this one in front of it. And I know this one will probably not fit exactly. No, it doesn't. But the one it was supposed to fit in, it would have fit exactly. This would not have been a standalone piece. But it's just survived that way. So I think there's all sorts of fun uses you could have for that as well. I like that particular type of art glass. It is American. Got a candlestick back here, and then some really fun early little plates. And this is a crumber. So it's a two-piece. This is what you would have gotten crumbs off your table, or maybe more likely your butler would have gotten those crumbs off the table. Next I have some demitasse spoons, and as I go down here you will see I have lots and lots of silver and silver plate. Bottom line is this is just a fraction of what I have. So if you are looking for anything particular, please do let me know. These pieces right behind here are all English. We have an English salad set, particularly finely made. And then we have these knives, which are probably fish knives. There's 2 and 2. And if you look up here, a lot of folks might think this is ivory, but it is not. It's a celluloid. It's an early plastic that could be carved. And so we have these really pretty decorated blades. Obviously, you won't necessarily have to use these for fish. They could easily be used for butter or cream cheese or other things along that line. I always have a nice selection of napkin rings and of tongs. And then these are cake knives and pastry servers. And once again, we have another tomato server. And this one is once again Victorian. Fabulous Victorian pattern with the pierced. They like to have these specialty pieces. At the height of the patterns, right around 1900, they would have had up to 110 different pieces in a silver pattern. So that's 110 specific different pieces that were specific use. So there would be a cream ladle, a mustard ladle, a gravy ladle, an oyster ladle, a soup ladle, and a punch ladle, and that's just the bare minimum. You would have several different sizes of spoons, and it goes on and on. Lots of specialty items. One of the things I like to do, as I've already mentioned, I like to take a look at what was used for, and come up with clever ways to use them now. Now, obviously, a tomato server, you can use that for exactly that. It's also perfect for caprese salad, for cucumbers, for basically anything that's flat, especially something that needs to drain a little bit. And that would be a particularly elegant addition to your caprese salad. Some more grape pattern here. And then I always have a nice selection of salt spoons and caviar spoons. So there's a little bit of a disorganized display of salt spoons and caviar spoons. The caviar are the mother of pearl, or this other one here, which looks like tortoiseshell, which is not. It's an early plastic that is mimicking tortoiseshell. I wouldn't sell tortoiseshell. It's not legal to do so. And though it was very popular in the 1800s to make things from them, we don't have those at this point, and it's illegal to do it currently. And then I'm going to go ahead, forgive the glare there. I'll get this case open. This is my case, and I normally have a combination of really unusual silver plate and sterling items in here, and then a few other pieces of jewelry, and I have a tin type in here currently as well. So I talked earlier about what goes with the berry spoon, and there's an example of a little set of 4 of the strawberry forks, and I'm chuckling because their tag is upside down. They actually have a tag, but you can't read it. One of the things I've done in this case is I have a lot of interesting forks. So the 2-prong there is a buffet fork. It's English. It doesn't have a specific use. They still make them today. These are seafood forks in Savoy, which is an 1847 Rogers pattern. This one comes from right around 1880. Very elegant, very pretty way to eat your seafood. Got 2 sterling tongs there. They're for sugar. Nice little sterling sauce. And then the very plain sugar tongs that are next to it, they have a rather special story because they are Regency. They are from 1809. And so they're at the end of the Georgian period. They are hallmarked, they are English. And you see that there's a much plainer patterns that are done during that time frame. Next to that, you have a couple sterling straws and some moat spoons. And if you'd like to know what a moat spoon is, I have a whole presentation on that. So go ahead and put in the comments if you'd like me to do a video on that. I'll leave it at that for right now. Really wonderful sterling with the gold wash. Once again, I'm in the middle of pricing some things, so some of these look a little less elegant than I would like them to look at this point, but this is a really, really nice piece from 1911. It's English, it's hallmarked. And the difference between a hallmark and a maker's mark, in America, you do not have hallmarks. You have maker's marks. You have, you could have the quality of the metal. So if it's a noble metal, you can have a 925, or it could say sterling, or 14K, or 10K, or 18K if it's gold. But you aren't going to have hallmarks because we do not have a hallmark system. England and a number of the other European countries do have hallmark systems, and what that means is they have a central location where these items are taken, and the hallmark is applied from an assay office that verifies that the item is what it says it is and is made by who it says it's made by. So normally it includes that city mark, a date mark of some type, and then normally the maker's mark. So this item has all of those things that tells me it is what I'm showing there. If it's an American piece, it's going to say 925 normally. It will probably say who the maker is. It might have some more information on it, but that's normally what you see for American items. Then I have a couple very cool silver plate pieces next to it. We've got a lettuce fork, an olive spoon, and a small berry, because of course you needed both a small and a large berry. Once again, going back to those large sets. Above that, you've got a pastry server and an ice cream slice. And that's both in the same pattern. They're Edwardian. They're from right around 1910. And the Edwardian period goes from when Queen Victoria dies in 1901 to, well, Edward died in 1911, and that's what the Brits say. Normally for the rest of us and for Americans, we take Edwardian a little bit later than that, normally up through World War I. And if you want to avoid the whole thing, you can just talk about the Belle Epoque, which goes from 1890 to right around mid-1920s, and that means it's the beautiful era. So we have some nice pieces here, some with sterling handles, one with a porcelain handle, and that is a sardine server. Imagine having just one piece to serve your sardines. The spoon next to it that's pierced is not a tea item. This is a piece of barware from the 1880s, and it is a mint julep spoon. And that's to go over the top of your mint julep glass, and we pour the mint julep in, the mint leaves get caught through there. Once again, interesting specialty pieces that are very, very specific. And of course, you can use that for a lot of different things that need strained these days. And that completes the case. And right in front of it, I have one more bread dish. And what I was using that for was to display my antique pins. So as I mentioned when I was talking about the bread dishes, there's lots of different options that you can come up with to use these items for. And once again, here's one of my other displays, and I am in the middle of updating this, so the notebook does need some things added to it. And I like to display my handkerchiefs and my ephemera and my other linens this way, because this way you can see them, you can scroll through them, so to speak, and I don't have to worry about the items being damaged. And you know when you buy something from me, get that out of the way, that the item has been properly taken care of and properly maintained while I've been showing it to folks. I do have a really nice selection of carving sets right now. There are individual pieces, there are sets, and I have these marked at a very reasonable price. These are poultry shears. It was a really fun this last weekend. I had two young folks who were looking at these items, and they both picked these up, and I just sort of popped my head around the corner and said, "Oh, those are poultry shears." And they both looked at me and said, "Yes, we know, we're chefs." So I was excited that I had some chefs looking at my items and did know what they were. So they were excited, and those may go home with them eventually. This is a really good juxtaposition between the different types of carving sets. This lower set here is done with staghorn. And if you look at the blade of the knife, folks will go, "Man, that looks really rough." Well, part of the reason it does is it's not stainless steel. It's steel, because this was made before stainless steel was starting to be used. The set next to it comes up into the 20th century, really ornate Art Nouveau pattern called Berwick. And you've got the steel, the fork, and the carving knife. And this one is, I think, still steel. It may have been redone at some point, possibly. That's one of the things you look for when you're looking for antique and vintage silver plate silver and coin silver, is whether something's been resilvered or whether something's been replaced. And it's really, really common for these original steel knives to have been replaced. If folks would use them, they would wear down, and then when they got to that point, they'd go to someone who could take care of that for them, and maybe a jeweler or a metalsmith, and have a new blade. And maybe at that point stainless steel was available, so they would have that replaced. What it would mean, however, though, is it's not original. One of the big delineations on antique especially is if something is in its original condition, and that impacts the value quite a bit. I also have a set back here. The set is heritage, and it is once again 1847 Rogers, but this is an 1847 Rogers set from the 1950s. And they started actually putting the pattern name on the back of it. So if you see a silver plate set that has the pattern name actually on the reverse of the handle, it's very, very likely it's after 1950. Also, Rogers at that point had been bought by International Silver. So you're going to see an IS on there, which stands for International Silver. it's still silver plate. It's several layers of silver plate, but it's silver plate. I do get that question quite a bit. In fact, if you'd like me to do a video talking about the different types of marks that can be on the items that are either partially silver or all silver, well, I shouldn't say all silver. The most you're normally going to get is 925, which is 925 parts out of 1,000, because it does need to have some type of reinforcement, especially if you're going to use it for utensils and for eating. And I've got a couple really nice trays here. I love the toll art. This is a 20th century. You've got the nice little design on here, and you've got your Formica basically on the inside. So it's a bar piece. And then this is a chrome with early plastic handles. So this is most likely 1930s based on that Art Deco shape and on those Art Deco handles. So this is sort of just a sampling of the things that I have in my booth. This is by no means all. I have lots and lots of stuff, and I like to share it all with folks. So thank you for being patient as I'm doing my first long video, and I look forward to sharing more of my fabulous things and my stories, both my mom's, mine, and some of my fabulous friends. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.